I sit here, enveloped by a warmth, battling a heart-wrenching sadness. I think of my friend, trapped in her own battle with cancer, facing the unknown with a courage I can only admire. The weight of her struggle feels all too familiar because I, too, have recognized the unbearable uncertainty of living with a diagnosis that can come out of nowhere. Just like her, my journey began unexpectedly. I remember the day that unraveled after my diagnosis, vividly etched into my memory, like autumn leaves lost in a gust of wind. Although my MS is not on the same level as cancer, it changes the lives of people living with it forever. I was born with hemiparesis. It's a condition characterized by weakness or partial paralysis on one side of the body. In my case, my right side. It often is a result of brain injury. Well, I was born with it, so the brain injury must have happened in the womb. Growing up, that was my life challenge. Multiple sclerosis, well, I had never heard of it. And it was never something that peppered my thoughts. MS loomed over me like a storm cloud without me knowing. Somewhere on the horizon, but I was blissfully unaware of its impending arrival. It was the spring 2003, and life was filled with promise. I had graduated and landed a coveted position with a design firm. I'm a graphic designer, by the way. With my career fully underway, I became the proud owner of a condo. It was a significant milestone for me. The freedom to paint the walls and decorate however I wanted to. So, naturally, when my girlfriend suggested we spruce up the dining room, it felt like the perfect way to celebrate our new chapter together. The morning began. Was one of those rare moments when everything felt right in the world. Sunlight poured in through the windows, showering the space with warmth. We made our way to Home Depot, giggling as we collected paints and supplies. Our enthusiasm bubbling over. I can still picture that color we picked. It was a warm brown that reflected hope and renewal. I was so overjoyed. I could only laugh at my clumsiness as the day dragged on. I mean, stepping in the paint tray for no reason is a pretty funny thing to do, don't you think? Life has its curveballs, doesn't it? That day of laughter and clumsiness quickly morphed into a series of obstacles that would forever alter the course of my life. I remember being a complete disaster. We laughed until tears streamed down our faces, a pure moment of joy that felt like it could last forever. Yet, the joy was deceptive, a mere facade, that eventually peeled away like the paint from my wall. In the days that followed, the clumsiness didn't fade. My walking became more uncertain, and a sense of doom crept in. I was scared. What started as a harmless joke turned into a worry that gnawed at my mind. I thought it was an ear infection, an annoyance easily brushed aside, but as weeks turned into months, I found myself sitting in my newfound neurologist's office more often than I cared to admit. Each appointment brought with it a whirlwind of tests, needles drawing blood, and uncertainty hanging in the air like a thick fog. The dread compounded after my first visit to him. I remember my girlfriend holding my hand tightly, a silent promise of support in a time of turmoil. The ominous presence of that appointment tore away any sense of security I had clung to. The test became an unbearable routine, an endless cycle of waiting and worrying. I still remember that sinking feeling when my doctor mentioned a brain tumor. God, brain tumor. I thought to myself, is this happening? Is this really happening? Has it gone this far? But the true horror unfolded slowly, teasingly, as if my body was taunting me before revealing the truth. It was almost a year before I finally faced the MRI machine. My heart racing, thoughts spinning wildly. You know me and how I loved to research everything. Time and time again, the term multiple sclerosis kept appearing. I started to read the stories of people living with it. I didn't want to accept it. That it was just too much of a nightmare. It had to be something else, right? Then came the day that the entire right side of my body went numb. Nightmare unfolding. I was scared. The kind of fear that creeps in silently, instilling a sense of isolation within the cacophony of life. Oh man. I could no longer feign ignorance that numbness was one of the biggest MS symptoms. The reality of my situation crashing down, heavier than a ton of bricks. When I received the MS diagnosis, I, in a lot of ways, knew it was coming. But even though I knew it was coming, I couldn't find the words to describe the whirlwind of emotions that consumed me. I wanted to push it away, deny it. That denial washed over me like a tide. I found myself begging for alternate answers. Couldn't it be anything else? Grasping for any glimmer of hope that this diagnosis was a mistake. Maybe my neurologist didn't know what he was diagnosing. The thought of living with MS seemed unfathomable to me, a shadow that threatened to swallow me whole. I know my friend faces her own fears and uncertainties now, just as I just did then. I wonder whether she too feels that fear of the unknown crawling at her heart, whispering with chilling certainty that life will never be the same. The conversations with my neurologist were often void of warmth. His voice dripped with pessimism that soaked deeper than the words themselves. I longed for encouragement, for someone to see beyond the diagnosis and recognize the person fighting within. But I wasn't getting anything from him. He would always ask me in the most cold-hearted of ways when I would describe symptoms to him. What do you expect? You have MS. And that was it. The gravity of my world seemed to have collapsed. And the end of my relationship with my girlfriend poured salt into my already open wounds. How could she have left me? She had promised me to be there for me. My girlfriend had been unwavering initially, but the burden became too heavy for her to bear. And thinking about it, I understood on some level. This disease was harder to live with than we ever anticipated. Amidst the chaos and despair, I discovered a beacon of light, one that we all know, my faith. I was raised in a Christian household, but I had strayed during my teenage years. But in that time of desperation, I turned back to God. In that space of utter helplessness, I found His strength. I began to believe in His presence more fiercely than I ever did growing up, feeling the weight of His hand guiding me through the chaos that MS had enveloped in my life. Perhaps it wasn't just faith. It was a transformation of belief. My understanding that healing can manifest in various forms. That thought echoed in my mind as I processed my friend's journey now. She too possesses a faith that transcends the harshness realities of her diagnosis. I can't help but hope that she will now find strength in the same manner I did. Hopefully, she sees beyond the storm cloud, recognizing as a part of a broader tapestry that intertwines with life's unpredictable moments. The same understanding calmed my turbulent heart when I would realize that despite MS, I was still me. I was still capable of dreaming, of achieving, and of overcoming MS. Both of us were thrust into unfamiliar worlds, shadows of anxiety that threatened to engulf our spirits. Yet here we are, wrestling with the depths of sadness, yet somehow allowing ourselves to find comfort in the warmth of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we are more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. In the spaces between uncertainty and acceptance, there lies a resilience waiting to be unearthed. A strength that may not be visible at first, but emerges over time, emerges with the shield of bravery. Our struggles differ in many aspects, yet they are woven together in the tapestry of shared experiences. As we journey through life, we find ourselves both sad and hopeful simultaneously. And it's within this hope that propels us forward. A wave of warmth washes over me now, and I feel my heart swell with love and empathy. I chose to believe that my friend will find not just her footing in this new and daunting path, but also the courage to redefine her reality. A reality that may not resemble the one she once envisioned, yet can still be beautiful, meaningful, and full of hope and purpose. I remember in those early weeks after my diagnosis, the world felt like a ghost town. Steve's ghost town. Everything familiar seemed to be morphed into something alien to me. Friends who had once been pillars of strength seemed distant, their lives continuing on without me. While I stood frozen in time. I sensed them struggling to understand what was going on in my life, just as I felt overwhelmed trying to articulate my feelings of confusion, anger, fear, hopelessness. But what strikes me most is that while my friend and I both have found ourselves standing at the foot of an insurmountable mountain, we are learning to climb it step by careful step. I realized MS is paper tiger. Being a paper tiger refers to something or someone that appears formidable at first, but is actually pretty weak. I'm not dismissing MS or minimizing its effects. Quite the opposite. I make videos to show you how to beat it despite the harm it can do to us. The purpose of me is always lingering at the edge, waiting for the right moment to bloom. I began to understand my diagnosis was not simply a chapter of suffering, but also a testament of how your life can change. I know she watches my videos. I want her to see that strength is not an absence of fear, but a willingness to move forward regardless of that. Even when the fog of uncertainty clouds my vision in the past, I can forever claim victory now. I hope she finds strength in her victories. Life might not always be easy for her. It hasn't been for me. But those little moments can weave themselves into a tapestry of meaning that reflects a life lived fully, even in the shadows of our respective diagnoses. As I navigated through the murky waters of understanding what MS meant to my future, I also started to awaken to the new reality of living. And after doing this year after year, devoting myself to it, I now know without a sliver of doubt, full recovery is possible. My faith became a cornerstone to me during my darkest days. There were nights when I would stare at the ceiling, wrestling with my fears, questioning what the future held. In those moments of doubt, I found a deep sense of peace. It was as if through each whispered heartache, I slowly began to feel his presence enveloping me, guiding me back to him, reminding me I was never truly alone in the battle. I want her to know that her faith can become a wellspring of strength amidst the storm. That belief fosters resilience, a deep-seated trust that whispers to us, urging us to keep moving forward, even when the way seems obscured. Some days will undoubtedly be harder than others, of course. They were for me. Sometimes those days would stretch to weeks, stretch to months. But even though I have grappled with intense emotions before, the sort that threatened to swallow me whole, I didn't let it. Sadness, anger, fear, they come in waves, crashing against the fragile shores of my spirit. But I don't let it get to me. And now, more than ever, it has no place. I want to tell her that it's okay to feel overwhelmed, to allow the weight of it all to settle in, because sometimes in those very depths of emotion where clarity often arises from, where the spirit learns to rise again like a phoenix from the ashes. Ultimately, as I make this video for her, I feel a shared understanding, a bond forged through trials that connect us in many different ways. I want her to know that I walk beside her in spirit, encouraging her to recognize this diagnosis and embrace the uncertainty of life with open arms. This is not the final chapter. It's merely a turning point. It's a chance to redefine the narrative, to find purpose in pain, and to discover the depths of our own strength. Though we traverse our path separately, we are united in our resilience, our faith, and our unwavering determination to claim our lives with bravery against disease. As uncertain as it may feel now, I have faith she will step into the light that glimmers between the shadows. So, I'm here throwing waves of warmth and love and warmth and everything to her, hoping to wrap her in a comforting embrace from afar. Each line in this video is crafted with the intention of reminding her she is not alone, that I believe in her, just as she should. It's scary, but you can fight this. The future may not be clear. It's a roadmap skewed by twists and turns of unpredictability. But I've learned that it's possible to find beauty in the unexpected. My journey has never been a straight line, ever, from the moment I was born. But every setback I've had in my life, every moment of doubt carved in a space for understanding, empathy, and resilience to flourish, I found. There's beauty in the messiness of life, the unpredictable path we walk. I have always seen it as a call for adventure, a reminder that we are more than what we are diagnosed with, more than the nastiness that is happening inside of us. I wanted to feel that sense of possibility that arises when we dare to step beyond the confines of what we thought we knew about ourselves. Granted, there will be days when darkness looms larger than light, when the weight of all feels unbearable. I think back to the early days after my diagnosis, the feel of wanting to pull away from the world, retreat into isolation. But I guess I wasn't really good at it because I kept reaching out little by little. And in doing that, it became my lifeline. I hope she can find comfort in those who stand by her side, offering unwavering support. We can weather the storm one moment at a time. The journey is ours to own, and while it may feel scary, yet it's also a chance for growth. MS has made me grow so much. With every challenge, we can emerge more profoundly connected to our own lives. For me, that connection forged a renewed appreciation for life. For life. And understanding that it's not about what we can't do, but rather what remains possible. I want her to feel my unwavering belief in her strength, just as I continue to nurture my own. I want her to know that it's okay to feel sadness and to fear the unknown. So, dear friend, as I close this video, know that I stand with you. I carry your burdens in my heart, woven in my own journey, offering you both tenderness and strength. Together, may we navigate this uncharted territory. May we choose to dream, to hope, and to believe in the beauty that can arise out of sadness, in the resilience that continues to bloom even in the shadows. And more than anything, may we also remember we are not alone.